Bienvenidos y bienvenidas una vez más al Rincón de las Geógrafas. En esta ocasión tenemos una entrevista muy especial. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Geographer's Corner. We find ourselves once again with another exciting topic that we hope you will enjoy. This time, Professor Ana Espinosa Seguí proposed me to discuss the Matilda effect. I thought it was very interesting to bring the raw space in direct way. I leave it to her to introduce our guest this afternoon. I would just like to thank her for inviting us to the Geographer's Corner and for her ability to carry out this interview.
Thanks very much, Aspen, and also thank you to the audience that are listening to us today. And as Aspen said, today we have a very interesting and very special session because for the first time we are interviewing someone in English, as you can hear. And I think this is great because it opens the door for us to interview so many interesting people around the globe. And on the other hand, we are interviewing not just one, but two men. Yeah, that this is quite extraordinary in our Women Geographers Corner. Because when we talked, Aspen and I, some months ago, I think it was in December, both of us agreed that this is not a space of dissemination just for making visible the work done by women, but also the work done for women. And this is exactly what Philipp Aufenvenne and Chistian Haase are going to do today. Yeah, so today, as I said, we have two scholars from the University of Passau. I'm going to introduce first Philipp Aufenvenne and then Chistian Haase. So Philipp graduated in geography from the University of Osnabrück in Germany with a thesis about climate determinism. He's a doctor in philosophy since 2022 with the thesis looking at what geographers do, empirische Beiträge zur Wissenschaftsbeobachtung in der Geografie at the University of Passau. And you obtain there the magna cum laude qualification. He has also been working as a research associate at the University of Osnabrück, Passau, and also in Austria in Innsbruck.
Oh, Klagenfurt.
Sorry, Klagenfurt, Osnabrück, Klagenfurt, yeah. Sorry.
No problem.
He's the author of numerous scientific publications in the field of social networks research, climate change from a social science perspective, which is something that I really like very much. We can talk about that later. The history of geography and geographical theories, migration, sociology of science, and gender studies. So we also have Chistian Haase. He's much younger. He's still finishing the PhD. He finished the bachelor degree at the University of Kiel. And then he moved to the south of Germany to Passau, where Philipp and Chistian worked together. And he wrote a thesis about from the master degree, which was framing over tourism, media power and opinions. So here and again, you would also have so much information and topics about this over tourism. He also started the career with Professor Malte Steinbrück, who was also invited to this interview. We will talk about that about him later. Chistian has been engaged in different teaching and research projects, and right now he's preparing a course for South Africa, West Africa, sorry, working on a proposal for a doctoral thesis and the intersection of post-coloniality, epistemic violence, AI, and imagery. So, herzlich willkommen zu unserer
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the introduction. We are very excited about the invitation and we are looking forward to the interview. And as it is for you, it's also for us the first interview in English and also the first live interview. So we are quite excited about it and let's see how it goes.
Yeah, but let's go into it.
Okay, so as I said before, as I mentioned, there was also Malte Steinbrück, who was a professor at the University of Passau. And this interview was meant to be for three people, for the three researchers of an article that we found on the internet. Unfortunately, last year, Malte Steinbrück passed away. And I think the best way to honor his name and also his work, it would be that you say some words about him before we start with the interview.
Of course, yeah. Malte contributed significantly to the works we did in the last years. And unfortunately, he passed away last year in May, so almost exactly 1 year ago. He was just 53 years old. And yeah, we have worked together for more than 12 years. And in these years, he became a very close friend, also a dear colleague, and he's missed here a lot. And yeah, all the works in the last years wouldn't have been possible without him. So I brought a picture of Malte with me, so maybe I can show it that everyone has seen him, and then somehow he's also part of the interview. I can put it there on the shelf maybe, and then he's also joining somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I can only echo Philipp's words. So yeah, Malte was a very engaging person, and yeah, he brought me into science and was very influential for my academic development and career. It's quite a shame that he cannot take part here in this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you to both of you. Aston, you are on mute.
Oh.
Sorry. Okay, let's go to the interview. We begin the interview always with a few short questions I'm going to ask you. The first one is, when did you know you wanted to become a geographer?
Christian, you want to start or shall I start?
There, you can go ahead.
Okay. So in my case, I never really had a specific goal of becoming a geographer. After school, I didn't study geography in the first place. Instead, in the beginning, I chose sports and biology, and actually I wanted to become a teacher. I was studying at that time in Bremen, and I wasn't that happy with that decision. It was not really, I don't know, it didn't make me happy, and it was not really fulfilling. And then a friend who was studying geography took me to some of his lectures, and I liked it. I found it interesting, and that's somehow I ended up in geography. So I quit biology and sports and chose geography as a major, and then sociology and political science as minors. And then, yeah, that's how I ended up in geography.
It was completely for chance, yeah, by chance.
Yeah, it wasn't planned. No, yeah.
It wasn't planned at all.
For me, it wasn't even planned that I'm going to study after school. So that wasn't the plan in the first case. But then I had a very nice school teacher in geography, and he even introduced his pupils into academic working, so in citing as well and reading academic empirical articles. And that was very interesting, and yeah, that got me then into university in the end. And with him, because he was a geography teacher, geography was the choice.
I think we could say that this is also very common in many of our interviews, that when they have a good mentor in the high school or in the primary school, it's like they open the door to the geographical science.
Yeah, it's very important to have a good teacher. Well, the second question is, when you finished your studies in geography, were you clear about what you wanted to specialize in?
Yeah, in my case, I was pretty sure what I wanted to do for my PhD, because at the end of my studies, I was already very interested in science studies and the sociology of science. And I found the idea of applying this perspective to geography very appealing. So, and I also worked for 2 years in a university library after graduating, and that may also explain my interest in bibliometrics and citation analysis and these methods. So, yeah, I had the idea already when I started working in Klagenfurt at the university, that I wanted to do this kind of research.
Okay, and you, Chistian?
For me, yeah, my specialization wasn't really clear either. So, yeah, as you mentioned as well already, that my topics I worked on, or the topics I worked on, they were quite different, but I mean, all related to social sciences. But yeah, I had no specific topic. With my master's thesis, it was media and the media framing. Then I bumped in Passau, I bumped into Malte and Philipp, and then I got into gender studies and science observation and found that very interesting. And yeah, now since Malte was my mentor as well for my first PhD idea, but since he passed away, I changed the topic again, and now I'm like rather working with AI and yeah, discriminating patterns in AI. So very diverse and yeah, not really. It's more the empirical work that interests me, I guess.
Okay, and now we start with the big part of the interview. And as Aston mentioned, I think it was in December when we got the task from the faculty to find some examples of Matilda effect in geography. And we were searching on the internet about geography, women, and citation, and Matilda. And we couldn't find any example, but we found you. And we asked you if you wanted to participate, and here we are, right? So yeah, I would like that you explain to the audience who was Matilda Jocelyn Gage and what does it mean, the Matilda effect in science?
All right, of course. Matilda Jocelyn Gage was an American women's rights activist from the 19th century. She was an activist, especially for women's right to vote, but she also worked on some other topics. For example, she repeatedly criticized the fact that women's academic achievements received too little recognition. And she did that especially in an essay with the title Women as Inventor. And in this essay, she criticized the widespread idea, or that time widespread idea, that women lacked inventive drive and scientific talent. And then round about 100 years later, this essay fell into the hands of the historian Margaret Rossiter. And Rossiter was doing research on the role of women in modern science, and she felt inspired by that essay of Matilda Jocelyn Gage. And that's why she chose her as a namesake for an important essay. That essay was published in 1993. It was also highly regarded, and Rossiter entitled that paper The Matilda Effect in Science. And in this paper, Rossiter describes how the contribution of female scientists has been systematically ignored in the history of science. And then, since then, the term Matilda effect has been used to describe the phenomenon whereby women often receive less credit or recognition than their male colleagues for the same kind of academic work or the same academic achievements. That's what the Matilda effect is all about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there are like a lot of examples too, especially like for the Matilda effect, especially when you look at the last century. So, and maybe dive deeper into, this is where a lot of articles are about too, into the Nobel Prize realm. So today, yeah, it's quite well known that a lot of female scientists were significantly involved in groundbreaking research. So yeah, and there's maybe one good example where this Matilda effect could recently be observed, and it's connected with Lise Meitner. She was a female scientist, and she played a key role in the discovery of nuclear fission, so for nuclear power and nuclear energy. And Otto Hahn in the past was the one who got the Nobel Prize for this finding, but she should actually be considered as like the mother, maybe you could say, of nuclear power. And when we look at the movie, the recent movie, very successful movie, Oppenheimer, which was in the cinemas and got a lot of prizes too, and it was about the atomic bomb and atomic power, and her name wasn't mentioned at all in this movie, but any other male geniuses behind it were named, and she was totally overlooked again. Even though there are already a lot of articles mentioning that she should be mentioned at least. That's maybe funny reference to it today, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, you wrote, sorry, you wrote 2 articles that one of them was the gender citation gap in human geography, indications from Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. So this is the article that we found in internet, and this is the article we are going to start the interview with. So once the interview will be published in YouTube, I will put the two articles in the comments, so people can also go through, and you will get more citation. So you wrote there are 2 interconnected findings from empirical gender studies, higher education, research, and science studies. And the first one is the underrepresentation of women in academia, what we said, or what is commonly said, the glass ceiling, and the gender differences in the distribution of reputation, which is the Matilda effect. So can you explain better your results?
Yeah, I can try at least. The first finding that you mentioned about the glass ceiling is actually not based on our own research. I mean, that women are underrepresented in higher scientific positions is a well-known fact and has been empirically proven many times. And the numbers we used for geography in Germany were collected 2020. And at that time, there was a so-called gender task force of the German Geography Association. And they did a study, and the results show very clearly that women in German-speaking geography are still underrepresented, particularly at higher career levels. So I can maybe tell you also the numbers of their study. So in 2020, the majority of geography students were actually women. And also among the PhD students, there were around 50%. But when you look at the level of professors, among the professors, the numbers were much lower. For example, in physical geography, it was just 21% female professors, and in human geography, 32%. So that's what the glass ceiling is all about. And even if you take into account that professorships are permanent positions, unlike pre-doctoral and postdoctoral positions, and that because of that, the proportion of women can only increase in a slower rate at professor level than on pre-doctoral or postdoctoral level. The differences are nevertheless large, and they require an explanation. And we use that as a starting point for our own investigation. And we wanted to find a potential explanation. Why is that? Why the number of female professors is still that low? And we thought a good explanation can be the citation practice. So we had a closer look at that.
Mm-hmm. And luckily we had the data already. we didn't gather it especially for that purpose, because Philipp and Malte had a different project before about the unity of geography, so physical.
Sorry, what there? The
Unity.
Unity.
The unit. So the physical and the social in geography. And because of that, they gathered the citation data. And with that, we were then able to as well have a look at citation patterns as a possible explanation for the structural gender gap. So yeah, there we wanted to know if female geographers are less frequently cited in there than their male colleagues. And this is the most important question here, because we don't see citations not just as a scientific communication tool for transparency and so on, but as well as as a distributor for academic recognition and reputation. That's the main the key role citation for us in this sense. And yeah, it's highly valuable because I mean, You know that probably as well. These citation indexes that exist, they are they are used for hiring academic researchers and for putting them on very high positions, so on the professorships. And yeah, that's why they're so important. And yeah, long story short, so we searched through a lot of data. So we looked at the literature database, the online database Scopus, and several other German language journals. And in total, we examined 4,000 publications. And the results in that, the citation pattern results were quite clear. And maybe Philipp can now share the screen.
Yeah, of course.
For our citation network we brought with us. It makes the whole thing a bit better understandable, I guess, what we did.
So is it possible to see slides?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. By the way, as you can see here, this is Matilda just engaged. Just that you also have an idea how she looked like.
And it's about making these visible.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a citation graph based on these 4,000 publications we analyzed. And each node you see here is one of the 150 human geography professors in Germany. The green nodes are male professors, and the yellow or orange nodes are female professors, and the lines between the nodes are the citation relationships. And the thicker the lines are, the stronger the citation relations are. And the first thing that you can see here is, of course, that there are much less yellow or orange nodes than green nodes. So the number of female professors is much lower in this network. But you can also see that their nodes in general are much smaller. So the yellow nodes are smaller than the green ones. That means they receive less citations. So the more incoming citations one professor has, the bigger the node is shown here. In general, a male professor in this network received 87 citations, and the female professor received 53 citations. So this is about almost 40% lower. And to our surprise, the result was not only due to men citing other men, as you can, for example, see here, they have two men with strong citation relationship and they give each other a lot of citations, but it was also due to the citation practice of female professors. They also overproportionally cited male professors.
Mm-hmm. And this is also related with the second question, because you said that men are more likely to quote other men, and women, they don't make this discrimination, right? So they just quote whoever wants to quote. Yeah. So which reasons can be behind this process of homophilia in citing among men? And why don't women do the same than men? Of course, the number of women is lower, so, but maybe they could support more citations among women. And are there more heterophilic in the citation practice because of their structural disadvantage in the volume of scientific production? So they have less production. We could say that they are less productive in terms of volume and female than the male members in the communities. There are many questions.
Yeah,
okay. So let's start with the one that you want.
Maybe we start with the proportions. So because the proportions are different, right? As you said, Anna. But like the homophile citing regarding men and the heterophile citing regarding women go beyond the group size. So there are statistical tests you can do that regard group size in the homophile practice, or this is a homophile analysis you can do. So even against the background of the different group sizes, the statistical tests we did point to a homophilic bias of men and the heterophilic bias of women. So both male and female authors cite professors male professors disproportionately more often. So it's not just occurring because of the group size unbalance. So that's maybe the first thing. So, and why women do cite men has probably something to do with what is called preferential attachment, or the Matthew effect as the opposite of the Matilda effect. And put simply, yeah, there are many scientists that are not cited very much, and there are just a few that are very frequently cited scientists, and they get cited over and over again. And this is called the Matthew effect. The scientist Robert Merton, he was the one coining this term, and he connected this positive feedback loop, or this self-reinforcing process of citing, he connected it with the orientation effect of well-known author's name. I mean, we probably, or you can probably look at yourself and your citing and see that you try to orientate yourself on big names in that field, because these big names, it's common to cite them. They are most of the times called some must cites you need to have in your work. And on the other hand, it can be good for your reputation as well, because then you let the others see, okay, I read this great scientist, this academic star, and I present myself maybe in the glory of this person. And in the past, these persons were mostly men. So, and with this orientation tendency, this preferential attachment, for this tendency, men and women fell for the same for the same reason, basically. And this is what we argued in our article, that could be the reason why women cite heterophile, so cite men more often than women. And yeah, Philipp we had some other effects as well, which some statistical stuff, which we could make sure.
Yeah, but you also mentioned the scientific production that may differ between men and women. But in our case, in our sample, there was no difference. So the number of articles published by female professors was as much as the number of articles male professors published. So that was not the explanation.
But per person, right? Not in as a whole.
Yeah,
so
per person, average,
per person.
Yeah. And each year. So you also should see how long they're already in academia and how long are they doing research, when did they publish the first paper. But after that, their output was almost the same. So that was not the explanation.
And yeah.
Finished? Finished with all the questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I mean, Philipp has you.
We also prepared some other things that maybe are interesting. They're a little bit abstract and statistical, but if you're interested, I could share the screen again and try to explain what else could be.
And there's
absolutely go ahead. Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
and there's a nice network graph again. Pictures are always good.
So is it possible to see? Okay,
sure,
see the network graph again.
But this is the previous one, right?
Yeah, exactly. We will start with that. And the point that we wanted to get to now is to explain why you should also consider thematic specialization and maybe some clusters that evolve in these networks, that you should consider this in this network analysis to see if there's really a gender gap or gender citation gap or not. I can maybe explain. So the idea behind this is that a citation practice in a discipline is, of course, organized around research areas. So authors naturally tend to cite colleagues working on similar topics. And as a result, clusters form in these networks. In this network, you can already see maybe two parts of the network that seems to be a little bit more dense. Like here, the density or citation relation seem to be a little bit more compact and more close. And also,
Which is from economic geography, can be?
that is economic geography. I will show that later. Exactly. You can also, if you know the names, like again, Grabherr or Johannes Rückler, they're quite famous German economic geographers. Yeah, this cluster here is economic geography. And also maybe here, it looks like there's a closer connection between the nodes and these things. And these thematic clusters, they can differ in several aspects. For example, the numbers of female or male scientists who are active in these clusters can be different. And also the publication activity or citation activity in these clusters can be different. So it makes sense to look at these clusters separately. Now, maybe I can explain it again with this picture. Now imagine a citation context with a balanced gender ratio. The same amount of men and male and female scientists like this here. And out of these two thematic clusters develop. A smaller cluster, here thematic cluster A, with mostly men active in this field. And a larger cluster, thematic cluster B, where women are in the majority. And in both clusters, women and men are cited proportionally to the amount. But the publication and citation activities are different. In cluster B, the number of publications and also therefore the citation rates are much higher. So if you would analyze these two clusters now separately, there would be no gender citation gap because the amount of citations are all along the number of male and female professors in that field. But if you would analyze the whole network together as one, then there would be suddenly a huge citation gap, but in this case, in favor of female scientists, because in this thematic cluster B, there were mostly women, say, publish more and they cite more each other. And then this cluster would overlay this cluster if you would look at them together. So that's why you should see these clusters separately from each other and do the analysis there. And that's also what we did. So we did a cluster analysis in this network graph, and we were...
Yes, the economic geography. Well done, Anna.
Yeah, and we were able to identify 3 different clusters. As you already said, the blue cluster here, that's economic geography. Then we had social geography, that's shown here in red. And in this brownish color, that's development studies. So, and actually the amount of female scientists active in these fields differed a lot. So in economic geography, the amount of female professors was much lower than in social geography, for example. And also the publication activity was higher in economic geography. So we thought maybe that's why we had a gender citation gap in the whole network when we analyzed it as one network. So we did all this analysis again in these different clusters and see what's going on there. But the results were still the same. So in each cluster, female scientists received less citations than their male colleagues, and also much less than they should receive just according to the number of scientists in that field. So in all clusters, there was a significant gender citation gap. So that was not the reason we could rule out thematic specialization in that case.
And do you think that we still need more time to balance the citation gap between men and women, or this is something that is already established, it's done, it's a structural process, and it will continue in the future due to the network-specific structures and characteristics? Because you also said in the article, in this first article that we are analyzing now, that in some cases, the gender bias is something conscious, but it's also unconscious. And in many cases, when I have to read an article, I'm looking to the title and to the abstract, but not to if there's a man or a woman who wrote the article. So in my case, for example, of course, there are some names and I'm happy that in some cases you see the surname, and when you look for the article, you see that there's a woman. And in the field of expertise I'm working now, there are many more women than men. So yeah, in this case, maybe there is like the opposite situation.
I personally think the citation gap will get smaller over time. Maybe also, or hopefully because of studies like ours, that they may raise awareness and encouraging the scientists to maybe question their own citation practice, or to have a closer look. Why did I read this paper? Is it relevant for my work? Why do I cite it? And this may lead to changes over time. And also some journals now explicitly demand so-called citation diversity statements. I don't know if you already have seen them. And in these diversity statements, the researchers must disclose their citation practices. So they have to show how many female scientists they have cited, how many scientists from which country or which ethnic background, and the idea is to make the literature they used more diverse.
Can be a bit
Maybe also help
too.
Of course. But maybe it also is a useful tool. I don't know.
Yeah, if you just do it for yourself and for just reflecting on, with whom you're working with, actually, regarding literature. But yeah, but they're like in combination with other good developments. I can agree with Philipp. So I think it will get better when you, for example, look at the appointments in German-speaking geography. So who gets newly appointed as professorship or gets a new chair. When you look at that, the share of the woman who newly gets appointed is increasing over time. So in one article, we mentioned this as well. And we had the figure like between 2014 and 2018, it was 37% of female academics that got on a chair or a professorship in geography. And the 4 years prior, it was just below 25%. And when we recall even like the 90s or the 80s, there the share was never above 5% of the new appointments for professors, for female professors. So there's a clear tendency that raises hope that it can be balanced out from time to time now.
And you are talking about German-speaking countries.
Yeah.
Maybe we go to South America or we go just to the south of Europe. Yeah, so maybe the situation is clearly different.
How is it? Do you know this? Do you have any, experience or dates, figures? I think you don't have in your head, but
we have them
what is your feeling?
not in our heads, but we also have some panels and some information about the situation of female geographers in Spain. And what you were saying about the proportion of female professors in Spain is pretty much the same that in Germany, maybe lower. And of course, in human geography, there is slightly higher, but in physical geography, and Aston is a physical geographer, the amount or the proportion of women is much lower than in general geography. I don't remember right now by heart the statistics, but I think we said from the whole Spanish Geographical Association, we mentioned years ago it was like 33 or 35% of women and the rest were men. Yeah, so it's always this percentage, like 2/3 are men and 1/3 are women. And this is like the same trend that we see in different scales, like in the regional or in the national, or even in the international one, because we also Aston make a small research about the division, the gender division in the International Geographical Association. I don't remember the name, the Uji, right?
I don't know.
Okay, it doesn't matter. And it was pretty much the same than in Spain. So 50% is impossible to find in any place.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah, hopefully it will change in the long run. So.
Let's see, maybe it's a question of time. But I like also very much in the second article that we are going to start the analysis now, participation and communication behavior at academic conferences, an empirical gender study at the German Congress of Geography in 2019 in Kiel. Before that, I like very much, and I love when I was reading the article, the expression of the old boys school, I think, or the old boys club, right?
Network,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, and this is so much like, this is so real. Yeah, so I like very much. So I have to admit, I really like, I enjoy reading your articles. And yeah, the second one, I think it was even more amusing because the methodological approach was very different from anything I read before. So can you summarize your results of the article from the conference in Kiel, please?
Yes, yes, sure. It was a very funny research we did because we did it with students as well. So we had a big group of students, which all
You were
went,
also part of it that time.
yeah,
You were still a student, I guess.
which all went with us to this conference, and we prepared them how to collect the data because we did like a secret observation. So we and the students in pairs, they went into the sessions, and then they had a look at who is talking, like in the discussions after a presentation, who is talking there and for how long. They measured time about the actual talk that was given and how much they exceeded, for example, time limits, because they have rules, right? And you in advance, you get the information that you have 10 minutes or 50 minutes for your talk. And we stopped the time, and when the talk started, and had a look if they exceeded their limits or not, and who was exceeding and for how long. And yeah, we had to look at, I think it was in total 200 talks, and it was more than 800 discussion contributions. We stopped like the time, and we gathered data on who was giving a talk, like age or estimated age, gender, and maybe the title, the academic title. And then we analyzed it again statistically. So there was again a lot of tests and statistical stuff. I try to go over this quickly because it's not that interesting. So yeah, it's a bit nerdy, but yeah, the results, maybe the most interesting results we got from this is that firstly regarding the visitors, so who's going to talks, we found out that presentations by men were better attended than those by women. So the audience was bigger when men were giving a presentation. And this, yeah, you're raising your, you want to intervene?
Later.
And that was in this case due to a significant homophile tendency of men that rather went to talks of other men, and women were indifferent in that case. So we referred to it as a clear Matilda effect that was produced by men in their reputation, distribution, by their presence, because yeah, it's about where do I go, who am I listening to, and who gets my attention. And the more people there are, the more reputation the person giving a talk gathers for himself. And yeah, then maybe another interesting result regarding the discussions. It was men that tend to dominate the discussion rounds as well after the presentation, so they spoke significantly more often and longer, so they were more present in the discussions. And the last one, maybe because it's interesting too, is regarding the talks, is that we observed a tendency that men often exceeded their time limits of their talks more frequently and longer. And this is quite, this is quite a rude behavior actually, because you have a time slot and this is the rule. And when you exceed your time slot, it can happen that others in this session won't get as much time as they actually should have. And yeah, that was, we could have observed that in this. It wasn't significant statistically, but it was a clear tendency though. But yeah, Anna, you.
Yeah, because when there is a session, usually there are like 4 or 5 people, and in some cases you know the order of the presenters, but in some cases you don't know the order. So if you go to a session and you see a man, so you stay there because you are another man and you want to listen to that person, but then the next person maybe can be a woman, right? So it seems that they are just leaving the classroom, or what happened there? Because you said that more men were more likely to go to the sessions where there were also men, but there were also women. So how can you discriminate because imagine that you are interested in the first and in the third, and the first is a man and the third is a man, and in the second one is a woman. So you have to stay there because it doesn't make any sense going out and in again.
Oh, no, we did that. We
Yeah,
counted
you
the
did.
number of people in the how many people were sitting there after each talk. So not only for the whole session, we also checked if they leave after the first talk, if they leave after the second talk, and we used that data to see how big the audience was when a woman gave a talk or when a man gave a talk. So they really sometimes left. Yeah, of course, it happened.
And you also mentioned something which, sorry, Chistian.
Go ahead, sorry.
That women had more discipline to attend the conferences and attend the sessions, and men were talking in corridors and halls and just like this, all the schoolboys, right? So can you
They
tell
want to
us
be on the schoolyard looking cool, being present, being seen. No, but we had the data that there are more women attending the conference as well. So
and in the audience, the number of women was also higher in general. So even the men who were attending the conferences, they went to less sessions or less talks to listen to.
So there is also like an informal way of making connections out of the sessions and just talking with the colleagues with these big blue points in the graph you show us, right?
Yeah, maybe that's what they did instead. I don't know.
Okay, so you also wrote, and this is something that I was, because you went to Kiel and you went to that conference and you were making the analysis, but in that article on that research, you just mentioned the women and men who went to the conference, right? But no one knows how many of them stay at home because they had to take care of their children, or they had to, I don't know, they were nursing, or they had very old parents and they also have to take care of them. So all these people are usually invisible, right? They are invisible because they don't count in your article or in your research. So I just want to share these thoughts that in some cases there is a big gap between the 30s and mid-40s for many women who cannot attend conferences. And I remember that from my first child, I stopped going to conferences because or I was nursing, or they were very small, and we couldn't arrange facilities or help for helping us at home. So I just stopped going to many conferences. So it's also, I wanted to make like visible that in some cases women are invisible for a certain period of their lives, of the academic lives, and they don't appear in any statistics. And I think this is also a gender bias in the absence or presence of these people in conferences.
Yeah, but we have maybe in our case it was not really like that, because we did the same research we did in Kiel 2019, we did last year in Frankfurt, where this conference was held again, and we could see that number of people attending, that there were more female attending the conferences, more women attending the conference than men, actually. But in general, of course, you are right. The people who don't go to the conferences are particularly disadvantaged, and they are less visible than the people who go to the conferences, and that's of course not good for their careers. So
it can be that these are the students who are like the majority female nowadays as well, so that these female students go to the conference and make the number of females higher than those of men. But the ones, what you said, which are between 30 and 40, and not as young as the students who can attend the conference, of course, too. There we can assume that, there's probably a number we do not collect in our, or cannot collect in our data.
I remember that you were also like, you didn't know the exact age of people, but you were just guessing who, maybe they
quite
were
tricky,
like
of course.
in the 30s, in the 40s, in the 50s.
Exactly.
Yeah, we didn't want to, how would you say, to intervene in the field work and to make it visible that someone is observing and collecting data. So we just had to guess in this case, because we wouldn't ask, because then we make obvious that that there's people collecting some data about this whole academic process there.
So the organization committee knew that you were going to carry out the research?
In Kiel, no.
No, but last year in Frankfurt, they knew,
Okay.
Then it was, that we were doing this research, but the results were still the same. So nothing really changed.
Because they didn't transmit to the speakers or to anyone that you were going to control everything in the
some new, I guess, but anyway,
it's not controlling.
Okay, yes, a little bit, right?
No, but the results for discussions after the talks, they were still the same. So talk more, ask more questions, exceed time limits more, and it was still the same.
And that's interesting too, because I mean, we went with our results we had. We went on conferences as well and talked about it. That was between Kiel and Frankfurt. And so the community knew about what was going on, and
still
we did it, and they still produced the same result in the end. So there was no change, no real change in the data, and maybe no real change in I don't know, in the mind at some point, but.
I think maybe the behavior is so embedded to men and women, so men are more likely to speak and speak longer, and to mansplain in some cases, because in some cases they even speak more time than the speaker, right? So instead of just talking like 5 minutes, they can talk even more than the person who is in charge of the presentation.
Yeah, we also observed that.
Interesting would now like be the question, why is it like that? So why do men talk more or women talk less in discussion rounds? Why is it? So we didn't do any research on that. So that would be a next study where we do interviews maybe with a female scientist and talk about our data and let them maybe interpret what they think, why the data is, how the data is, and I mean, maybe you can give
Include us, please. Yeah, absolutely. I would be happy to give also my point of view.
Yeah, I mean, you can go ahead now, but we are already quite.
We are recording. I would prefer it to do it rapidly.
But yeah, that will be a very interesting study that should follow up, and
Good. Yeah, as I said, I really enjoy very much your articles, and it was something very new and fresh. Yeah, and also I felt very related. I think also Aston felt related to this behavior in conferences, and it's nice to see that someone is writing what you feel sometimes. Okay,
nice to
so
hear
we
that
are
it's
done.
interesting.
We are done with the big part of the conference. Oh, sorry, with the big part of the interview. And now we also want to make you some questions which are more personal and also funnier and nicer, but it's just to know you a bit more.
Okay, thanks a lot for your articles, for your researching studies, results. In this case, I don't talk a lot or less because my English is so horrible, so but I prefer to listen you. Okay, the short questions, finally, is more personal questions, as Anna says. The first one is, can you give us the name of an historical figure who made you an impression?
Who wants to start? Christian, you want to start?
I mean, I can start for once then. I really, I thought about it and I really can't name like a historical figure that had a big influence on me. I would maybe I was I jumped too much between topics as well, that it's just one figure that is so impressive to me, but maybe to name one, I'd say Alexander von Humboldt, because even though he's a like physical geographer, but he did a lot of empirical work in geography or in his studies, and yeah, his birthday is on the same than mine, so that's great.
When is your birthday then?
It's the 14th of September.
Okay, okay.
It's a great date, apparently.
We will remember you and Humboldt.
Now everybody remembers his birthday.
Okay, Philipp.
I would name maybe Paul Watzlawick. It's an Austrian psychologist and philosopher, and especially when I started studying, I enjoyed reading his books a lot, and they had a big impression on me.
Okay, the second question is an historical female scientist.
Yeah.
Now big silence. That's what Matilda is all about. You want to start again, Christian?
Yeah, it's sad, but true. Yeah, it's not something that comes to your mind quickly, due to historical reasons and patriarchal structures, I guess. And yeah, but after some thought, I would think it's Donna Haraway, which I came across now again in my studies to artificial intelligence, because she worked in this social technical sphere and did some critical thinking and analysis there. So she's still alive. I don't know if it's historical figure, but yeah, she's good. She's great.
Yeah, I would name maybe Hannah Arendt. Also very impressive and scientist. I think.
Okay, the third question, a reference in your development as a geographer.
Right. I would,
Okay.
name my describer, definitely. Yeah.
That's for both of us, I guess, the same. Yeah.
Okay. A book or recommended reading?
Yeah. Okay. I would go with this book here. Again, it's related to my research now. It's called The Art of Feminism, and yeah, it's in the direction like Donna Haraway in that case. So yeah, they argue that data is often seen or portrayed as very objective, but it actually isn't. It's intervened with social relations and social sphere, and can as well reinforce gender or maybe racial biases.
Maybe I enjoyed the book Thinking Fast and Slow. I don't know if you know it, by Daniel Kahneman. It was also a very famous, successful book in the last 10 years, I guess. It was very famous. And it's very interesting because it's also about biased decision-making. And very interesting to read. Also, funny to read, a very interesting book in general.
Okay, a typical dish from your hometown or village?
I'm not that much into German cuisine. I don't know. What would you say, Christian? We are almost
Yeah,
from
we
the
have
same region, more or less. So.
Yeah, we are both more or less from the same region, so we agreed there on green cabbage. Do you know green cabbage?
Is nicht sauerkraut?
No, oh, no.
Okay.
No, that's
Green cabbage is nice. Sauerkraut is awful.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I
goes
will
around.
look for it.
Explain what it is. Yeah.
But is it
But you eat it in
fermented
winter.
or is fermented?
No, it's
no,
not fermented.
no. You cook it quite long in the pot, and then you eat potatoes with it, and mostly sausages and meat.
Okay, so this is a German dish, right?
Yeah, the German winter dish.
Yeah.
Green cabbage?
Okay, green cabbage. Yeah.
Green cabbage.
I don't know if it's the correct
think
English word for it.
In Spanish, I think it's col.
Yeah, but green
Oh, no?
cabbage, I don't know what they. Okay, I will have a look at it. I really like German cuisine.
Okay, the last short question is an unforgettable route and place. It can be local and not necessary from Germany.
Philipp?
Maybe Amrum. That's a very beautiful small island in the German North Sea. It's definitely a place worth visit. It has very nice and huge beaches, but it's not really possible to swim. I don't know if you've ever been to the North Sea in Germany.
Because of the currents or
the
the
water doesn't get that
water?
deep. Even if you're
deep.
going in 50 meters, the water goes to your knees. So it's
Okay.
very muddy. But the beach itself is nice. The island is nice, but not maybe for swimming. But
Okay.
very, very nice island.
And I have a route and a place for you, and that's now a bit cheesy, and I think some may say like apple polishing, because it's Santiago de Compostela and Camino del Norte, the Camino de Santiago, because I lived in Santiago for half a year, more or less, a bit less, while doing an Erasmus semester. And yeah, a month or a couple of months after that, I did this part of this North Camino along the coast, Asturias and Galicia, and was very nice. And yeah, I had very nice time on the trip and in Santiago as well.
Because Santiago is very, very beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is, and there's so many people. I mean, for the people living there, it can be quite annoying, I guess, when there's so many people in high season. It's very crowded in the small streets. But yeah,
Another perfect fishing ground for you for over tourism.
it's true. But yeah, that's my case here.
Okay,
so we're done.
It's the finish. Thanks for to accept the interview, and we could invite you to see the exhibition Geographers and Science. Okay, Anna. Yeah, you can visit in the link of
This is
Geographers
true.
Corners.
Yeah. Sorry, Carsten. Sorry.
No, tell me.
No, because you can also listen to our exhibition in German and in English. Yeah, so my husband did it in German for you. So maybe he's going to be the first people who are
an
going
exclusive
to
service.
listen to it in German. So we have this presentation we were mentioning about statistics and some names of Spanish people, Spanish female geographers and international, the first female geographers around the world, the globe. And I will write also the link to that presentation. I think it's also within the El Rincón de las Geógrafas. So if you go just to the first year, I think, or first year of activity, you will find it there. So we have the posters, and also we have some audios. So you
12,
can,
12 posters, I think.
yeah,
Great.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll have a look.
I didn't remember that we did that, yeah, some years
Thanks
ago.
to your husband.
Okay.
Yeah, he did it in Polish and in German.
Oh,
Okay,
Okay,
so thank you very much. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure to meet you and to share this space with you.
Thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, we both enjoyed it, I guess.
and hopefully we meet at some other occasion. Maybe in Spain at a
Absolutely, I
conference.
told you.
We
Yeah.
can go to a Spanish conference and connect other.
Some hidden observation at a Spanish conference. Yeah.
I don't know if we can hide 20 German students in the Spanish Geographical Association, just taking notes and monitoring everything, every movement of people. But yeah, absolutely. I think it would be great to make a cross-cultural study. Yeah. Yeah,
That would be cool.
I will go there. Yeah, with you.
Then we can show you green cabbage when you are here as well.
Okay. So thanks very much, and don't forget to share the link to your interview with your colleagues and also with the people, your colleagues in Germany. So we can internationalize the female geographers corner to at least to Germany right now.
Right.
Perfect. We will. We have an Instagram account now, so this is going viral.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just
So see
you
you.
can put it today. Okay, bye.
Keeping-
Cheers.
keeping good.
Thanks for having us. Ciao.
Bye.